Fucking clap. Just speaking to Nick about a lot of different uh, relationship things and then also perspective things, and it actually ties neatly into the topic of the episode for today. A good mate of mine, Mr. Mark, he was one of the two Marks that were my first personal training business mentors. And they ran a group together. One of them was living in Melbourne in Australia, and the other one was living in, where was he? Dorado or something of that variety. He actually told me a really cool story about how he ended up there. I'm forgetting the country's name. Where did he live? It was a really obscure tropical. I might remember it if it comes to me. I'm going to completely forget. But he told me the story about meeting his wife, and basically he wanted to design his life, and he was not really, I want to say, proud or happy with where it was going. And so he told us this big, he was a phenomenal storyteller, by the way. He told us this story of how he wanted to write down everything that he wanted in his life. And they were big into, in this business mentorship, they were big into vision boards and putting things front and center. So you had to see them every single day. And I usually instruct students to do this as well in terms of the 2-circle method. We'll get into that later. But Mark was telling me this story about how he designed his entire life, and he had this vision board thing, and it had a beach that, an apartment, beachfront, white sand, beautiful waves rolling in, so you could see sunrise, sunset, so like 360-degree views or 180-degree views, depending on if you're facing east or west. You could probably see both at the same time, or not at the same time, obviously, but you could see both at the sunset and sun down of the days. Sunrise and sunset. Fucking spastic. It's been a long day. But he basically wrote all this stuff down, and then opportunities started to appear to him more clearly, with more direction and more focus. And the reason that is, the reason that he, well, the way that he explained that reason coming to fruition was because of your reticular activating system in your brain, your amygdala. And basically what that does is it's not an information storing. The brain isn't an information storing machine. It's actually an information deletion device, because right now you guys are driving in the car, running on the treadmill, on the bike, so on and so forth. And yet you're doing that autonomously without being distracted from listening to this show. And although, like, if you see a car crash, that will take you away from listening to this, but because that is a very key piece of information that puts your safety at risk. And so what you're not paying attention to is everything that isn't that, including how your blood is pumping through your body right now, the way that you're breathing. You should be paying attention to your breathing, mind you, but you're not doing that consciously. It's an unconscious effort delivered to you by your brain. And that's because if you were focusing on those things consciously, and your brain was an information gathering and storing device, as we used to assume that it was, then you'd be going crazy because you'd never get anything done. Because you'd be like, oh, I got to breathe in right now. And then your thought train would be dissipated comparative if you have unconscious things that are happening in the background. And we pick up so much of that. And what our brain chooses to delete and what our brain chooses to take on is that of the most importance, that of which we teach it is the most important. And so you could have somebody walk into a room who's a hypochondriac, and they can look at all the disgusting surfaces that somebody like me, who doesn't give a fuck about any of that, wouldn't see. I would see, this is actually quite funny, but because I did security for a couple of years, I would see the place that you would sit having your back towards the wall so that you wouldn't be bombarded, because that's what you learn when you are engaging with an open room. You want to have your back covered. And so if you're sitting in a restaurant, it's usually a pretty good idea to put yourself up against the wall, because if an imminent threat comes through one of the doors, then you'll be prepared to deal with it and you won't get blindsided from behind. And that's a bit, autistic, but that's just the way that I've been taught to assess things. But somebody who hasn't done any combat training or hasn't done any police work or hasn't done any security won't even think about that. They just see tables and chairs and blah, blah, blah. And it's the same thing for somebody who's an expert in architectural design. And you walk into a house and you see a big open space and you're like, oh wow, that's a big open space. It looks good with the light coming in from the windows, and maybe you don't even look at it at that depth. But the architectural design person who's mastered that craft will look at the specific angles of where the roof is sitting and the heights of the ceiling and the way that the walls have been constructed, and if there's discrepancies in the build quality based on all the little infinitesimally small details that I don't even know. And they would see something completely different, but that's because their reticular activating system is pointing those things out to them and deleting probably the most basic level of information because they have a new perspective and a new window to see that through. This is the reason that Mark and Mark were teaching us to use these vision board things, because we would delete everything that wasn't that from our focus. And when you do get focused like that and you have a single pointed focus, you become very, very aware of all the pathways and all the opportunities that are going to get you towards your desired outcome. It becomes this laser targeting machine. It's exactly the same situation, and this is how Mark used to describe it. When you buy a car, you start to see them everywhere. You start to see them well more often than you previously did. And so if you buy a Toyota Corolla, obviously you're seeing them all over the road most of the time, but you're not paying attention to them. They're a very popular car until you buy one. And you buy one in black, and then you think that yours is going to be special because you've got the special colors and the different seats and blah, blah, blah. And then every single time you look on the road, there's another black Corolla with the special seats. It's not because it wasn't there. It's because your brain is now linked it to being important to recognize where that car is, say if you leave it in a parking lot amidst hundreds of other cars, right? And so this is the way that I've understood the way that the brain works. And it's a very simplistic example to explain. There's a lot more depth and a lot more layers of detail, but this is a nice little layman's terms version of understanding how this works. And so what I do with my students with the 2-circle method is I get them to write all of the things in the middle that they can control, which essentially boils down to their actions each and every single day, not their past actions, not their future actions, but the actions that they have in front of them today. And then I put in the second circle everything they can't control. So the results of those actions, the results of past actions, the past and the future, and all of those other things that exist, like what people think about them, what people say about them, opinions, and the way that people behave and all those sorts of things. You can go down a very long list and write it all down. And essentially what you get to the point of understanding is none of that shit matters. The reason I get them to put it on the back of their phone, on the phone screen, or the back of the toilet door, not that anybody looks at that anymore because we're in 2025 and everyone's glued to their nightmare rectangles, is because your reticular activating system is paying attention to it all the time. And if you discard the outside circle, or you at least remind yourself, hey, that has nothing to do with me. I can't control that, therefore it goes out of my attention. You will inevitably train your brain to be able to recognize that much faster, and then you will stop thinking about it altogether. You will start thinking about the things inside your circle of influence that you have direct control over more and more and more, just like when you buy the black Corolla with the seats and the customizations that you made that you thought were special, that you're now seeing all over the place. It was always there. It's just that you're now concentrated on it much more heavily. And so when Mark was telling us this story, he basically alluded to the same points that I'm teaching you guys now. And he said, what you start to do is strip away all of the very low percentage opportunities. You stop to strip away the ideas of make quick money and get rich quick schemes and all these sorts of things. So you see these videos on the internet about these dorks showing bank transfers and saying, well, I make this much money from Instagram and all I have to do is this, this, and this, but they never teach you what they're actually doing until you DM them and you realize it's a fucking MLM scheme and some bullshit. Here's a good word of advice. If they can't tell you what they do in simple terms in one sentence, they're scamming you. Like, that's unequivocally the way that works. If it's very convoluted and vague and amorphous, then it's a scam. Like, I help jiu-jitsu students systemize their learning process so they can get results faster, more reliably, with less years wasted in the gym. That's more or less what I do, right? And I've worked on that, and you can clearly fucking identify that I know what I'm doing because it happens to be the only thing that I'm fucking talking about every single day. I teach them how to problem solve, link moves together, and do both of those things so they can retain information much faster, therefore win more, become confident, and become higher skilled grapplers. Very fucking simple, very fucking easy to understand. That way, on the surface, you look at that and you go, oh, that's pretty easy. I want some of that. Let's fucking do business. Whereas if it's, oh yeah, I help people make money, and you're like, fuck, there's a million one ways to make money. What do you actually do? Oh, I just teach you how to do it over Instagram. Okay, there's still a million one ways to teach people how to make money over Instagram. They're like, oh, why don't you send me a DM? Nah, scam. See you later. Bye. So funny. I love watching it. There's a really good Instagram page called Baller Busters, and they go through all these dorks that are just literally ripping people off, or their methodology is questionable. Like that Andy Elliott guy who just, I know that he's playing the game and he's being rambunctious on purpose for you to pay attention to him, which generates more sales because there's going to be a certain amount of people that are just swept up in the mirage of what's going on, like the mysticism of what's going on, and they think this guy's really capable. He like earns a lot of money. He wears really tight shorts, and like it's just, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that don't look at the red flags, that just go, I'll give this guy money because it makes sense to do so. And thankfully, I've got at least a little bit of due diligence skills, so I don't get swept up in these things. I remember I was sitting at a table at a Mad Mex restaurant when I was a kid. I was a lot younger. I was maybe 16, and these mates of mine were having a meeting with somebody else, and they'd like come and seen us beforehand. And they asked us if we wanted to join. And that was an immediate red flag at the beginning of that statement, because I was thinking about it. If I was having a meeting that was important to me, I wouldn't just be offering other people to join. That sounds so fucking strange. Like, say, for instance, I'm looking for a house at the moment. And if I was to have a meeting with my real estate agent at a cafe and I saw one of my mates, I wouldn't just invite them to the table. I'd be like, I've got to have a meeting with a real estate agent. I'll talk to you later. Seems very obvious to me. That seems like the social norm to me. I just wouldn't invite them to the table because it has nothing to fucking do with them. But this was different. They were happy for us to join. And then one of the guys who came in, he was giving this big spiel about this energy drink Verve. I still remember it. He gave us an orange can each and we drank it and it tastes like shit. And they're like, we're going to be the competitors to Red Bull and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, dude, you are not going to beat Red Bull at fucking anything, actually. So first of all, Monster has already taken that mantle of competition with Red Bull. But yeah, you guys don't have any differentiation that's worth people switching teams for. And I listened to the whole proposition, and basically they were like, you get to level 3, you get a BMW. And that's when I checked out completely, because I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. There's no way that's actually going on. And rightly so, I identified that it was a pyramid scheme before I'd wasted thousands of dollars, because they were like, how do you get involved? And they're like, oh, you buy like 800 cans and then you give them to your friends. And I'm like, what the fuck? How much is 800 cans? They're like $1,500. And I'm like, whoa, what? That's ridiculous. And so you recognize pretty quickly it was fucking bullshit. But you do have to be aware of those sorts of things, because they'll come get you. More so, it's like old ladies who are clicking emails in their inbox that says that they've got a Westpac account and they bank with St. George, and then they like click the email anyway, and it's a phishing site, and it just downloads their browser and logs in their password and steals all their money. Honestly, if you get your money stolen from you out of your bank account because you click one of those emails and you're below the age of 50, you probably deserve it. Or if you fall for like some bullshit crypto scam, they're like, we can turn $3,000 into 30. You just got to give it to us. A fool and their money will always part ways. It seems to be the reason as to why nobody fucking has any these days, because they don't put any fucking effort into themselves. Which is more or less the topic of the episode. I was listening to an episode of Andy Frisella's podcast, which I don't think I've ever listened to beforehand. I followed Andy not long ago after some of the First Form guys were reaching out to me. And I was like, oh, what's First Form? I've heard about it all the time. And I ended up following the paper trail, and Frisella's the guy who owns First Form. They're a massive nutrition company in the US, and then he also invented 75 Hard, I'm pretty sure. And I'd not really had a lot to do with him. I've seen motivational clips of his episodes and stuff like that, and so I started listening to it, and more or less the episode in question is talking about the fact that most people remain average because they do bare minimums. And I know a fuckload of these people. It's the majority. It's the majority of individuals that exist today. It's actually, I think I spoke about this on a previous episode where the guy was saying like, these people were essentially saying like, oh, we act our wage because you're not paying us enough, because we just rock up and do the bare minimum and all that sort of stuff. And why should we be expected to go above and beyond? It's like, maybe because you'll get better at what you do. And that's kind of the whole point. It's not, okay, fair enough if they're like actually ripping you off. But also, if they are, you should be planning a succession anyway. And so wouldn't you want to try and get as good as humanly possible at what you're currently doing so that you can stand out, even if you need a glowing referral or a reference rather on a resume? Like, I always had good references because even though I got fired from many jobs, from doing dumb shit, it wasn't ever like being a dickhead to employees or anything like that. I just did stupid things. Like one time when I threw a bottle towards the bin and a girl walked around the corner and it hit her in the face, and it was a big fucking thing. It was just a dangerous thing in the workplace, which I completely understand why they fired me back then, but it's a story for another day. Although I kind of already gave the payoff, so you guys don't even need to hear the story. But yeah, there was just dumb shit like that. Or the timber flooring gig that I wasn't even really employed with, they're just paying me cash for labor. They would always message me for work the Sunday for the following Monday, so that I would know where to go and where to rock up and all that sort of stuff. And after the Christmas break, they just never sent me a message on Monday. I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe we're not going back today. I'll wait for the message on Monday night. And then I never got a message on Monday night either. And then I never got a message on Tuesday night either. And so I finally messaged them on Wednesday morning, and they just got the shits with me. And they were like, hey, we expected you to message us on Monday. And I'm like, that's not the way that it's been working for the last year and a half, but sure. And retroactively, I understand they wanted to let me go because I was playing footy and I wasn't doing that many hours. I would bust my ass while I was there, but I was always leaving at like 2:30, and then I would skip pack up, and I wouldn't be taking shit to the tip and stuff like that. And that obviously got that grind their gears, even though the two other laborers that they had were fucking useless. And I was the one who was actually doing things, learning to use the tables. We had one guy, Barry. Barry was a fucking moron. He was a nice kid, but just no gumption in that kid's brain whatsoever. No oomph, no grit, no determination, just rocking up and going, oh, yeah, fuck, yeah, whatever. And just doing like less than what was expected. And he just refused to use a table saw for 8 months because he thought it was dangerous, while watching 4 adults use it, or 3 adults use it consistently, and then teaching him how to do it, and then him still like refusing and just being a fucking waste of space. And they were doing it as a favor because they knew the parents of his, and you start to realize it's actually really fucking hard to run a decent level operation and attract like good level talent. And that's why you have to respect people like Andy Frisella, who runs a huge fucking company with a lot of good people, for instilling good practices from the bottom all the way up to the top, and making sure that the culture is that of determined individuals who want to better themselves and have a vehicle to better themselves as well, to neatly tie back into the original point. And if you don't have that, you can create it. It is very difficult, and you might feel begrudged as a result of you having to be the one that is creating it in your own workplace. But that's what leaders do. And if you want nice things and you want good accolades and you want to be paid well for the things that you do, you have to become skillful. And the way that you become skillful is you start to stand out. And the way that you stand out is by becoming a leader, not a follower. You become a victor, not a victim. And that was another one of Mark's typical sayings. You can either be the victor or the victim. There is only one path that you can choose. You cannot go down the middle. You cannot be both. You will either become victorious or you'll become a victim of your circumstances. You'll blame everything else that isn't you, and you will live a life of absolute misery. And to go back to the earlier part of the the conversation of where he was designing his entire life, and he didn't really have a deep thirst for watches and cars and everything else, but he wanted to live on the beach, on a white sand beach, in an apartment, penthouse, all that sort of stuff. And he was telling us the story of how he was looking around at all these places, and they went to Fiji, and then they went to he was from New Zealand, so they went to islands around New Zealand and some of the islands off the coast of Australia, and they ended up finally going through all this process and all these apartments and everything like that. And they found one that's close, but didn't have the white sand beaches. And they were almost going to take it until they got a random call one day from a real estate agent that said, hey, I think you should be thinking about this place. And it's killing me that I can't remember the country. I'm pretty sure Dorado was the city. I don't know if I remember this correctly, but if I remember this, oh no, that's in Puerto Rico. I'm not really, it's not in Puerto Rico, but it was one, it was a similar island like that. Anyway, so they went for this final inspection and it ticked off everything except it wasn't a penthouse. It was the one below the penthouse. And he's like, nah, it's close, but it's not it. It's got the white sand beaches, it's got the sunset and the sunrise and all those sorts of things. And he goes, it's close, but it's not it. And they held off from actually going towards the place. And they ended up getting a call 2 weeks later to say that the penthouse had become available and it was actually cheaper for some weird reason than the one below it because it had like a problem or something like that, but it wasn't a big deal. It was like a leaky bathroom or some equivalent to that. And they were like, oh my God, we'll take it. Yeah, absolutely. And almost seemingly by luck, by happenstance, by accident, this opportunity just decided to arise serendipitously. And you guys know I don't believe in any of that. I believe that everything happens for a reason. You're basically the author of your own story. And if you hold true to your principles and your direction and all those sorts of things, then you will genuinely fucking get it. As long as you work hard and make sure that you stand out and make sure that you actually take the victor path versus the victim path. And that was really cool to listen to because I'd never heard that from somebody. I didn't grow up in an area that, or an environment where I had those sorts of people around me. Very early on, I did have another mentor of mine, Nathan, who has since moved to, I'm even forgetting where. He's moved to the Solomon Islands, I'm pretty sure. And he runs this big nutrition company. They used to live in Byron Bay, where they started their own farm. And he's got a really cool story about how he went to a seminar in Brisbane for this strength training camp thing and met his current wife and now mother to his two sons. And he ended up deciding that he wasn't happy with the way that he was living in Sydney. And he was like, well, I'm going to Queensland to go live with her. And so he just packed up his shit, closed down his very successful PT business at the time, walked into the gym on the first day and went, I don't want to do this anymore. This just doesn't feel like me anymore. I think I've outgrown this. And if you've ever done personal training, you know how much of a fucking slog it is and the fact that you just want to get out of it very quickly. And so him and the wife decided, I don't think they were married at the time, but him and the wife decided they were going to run their own boot camp in their own way. And they were going to hire some council, like a basketball court or a tennis court or something like that. They're going to buy a bunch of equipment with the money that they saved up and they were going to make their own thing. And so they ended up making their own thing. But what they realized was they were running themselves into the ground by working not 9 to 5 anymore. Well, PT is 6 to 10 and then essentially midday to 6 or however you organize your day. But it's basically around the 9 to 5 because most people can't come during work hours. I read this quote the other day. It said, boy math is quitting your 9 to 5. So you just work 24/7. It's so fucking true. 24/7 I'd much prefer because it's something that I actually want to do that lights me up, that gives me excitement and joy and passion and hunger versus the soul crushing destruction of a 9 to 5 for some other dickhead. Especially if you're working in one of these companies that isn't the same as Andy Frisella's and First Form and so on and so forth, talking about the culture shift and having leaders and great people to work with. Most places don't have that because their leaders are sloppy and their managers suck and they don't want to be there either. And so the employees also suck because they don't want to be there either. So they do the bare minimum and they don't earn anything and they don't put themselves in a position to have vehicles for upward mobility because just the whole culture of the place sucks. But Anyway, they realized that they were working 7 days a week. They were burning themselves to the ground, and they said, "Well, we can't keep doing this because this is just ridiculous. Like it's much better and it's very successful, but it also is succeeding in the wrong means." And his wife, who is a brilliant nutritionist, holistic health specialist, really an expert in the way that we used to eat and the way that we used to prepare meals and slow cooks and bone broths and all that jazz. And she said, "Why don't we start a nutrition brand?" And so they did, and it become 10 times more successful than anything else that they've ever done. And so they moved out of Brisbane and they went down to Byron Bay and they built their own farm and started farming their own animals and growing their own plants and all that sort of stuff. And really commendable because they had a phenomenal life. They set up well and truly and went, yeah, we don't really like the way that this country is going and the way that it's being governed. And we think it's going to turn to shit in the next 5 to 10 years. And we're having kids now and we have to take that into consideration very heavily. So, yeah, we're getting out of here. Oh, Vanuatu, I think they moved to. I think it's Vanuatu. But they decided that ultimately that was going to be really favorable for them running an online operation. And they've just finished the completion of their house, I'm pretty sure. I've seen it on Nathan's stories. But he was somebody who was really influential in the very beginning of me getting into self-development and all that stuff. And I saw how hard he worked and I saw his mindset in approaching things. And he's only a couple of years older than me, I think. I think he's 3 or 4 years older than me. And he played footy just like I did. And he kind of finished the same sort of age bracket where I did and had a bunch of mates who went into the NRL and he wasn't the one that quite made it, but he was very good and very, very similar timelines. We looked very similar. We had like the same shaved heads and whatever. And it was really refreshing to see somebody with that like light behind them where they knew what they were doing and they knew they were going to get it. And even Adrian, who worked at that gym as well, I still speak to Adrian quite frequently. He was one of those original guys that was there that also stood out. That was also just doing the right things, like being a part of the furniture of the gym, but also somebody who was extremely happy to see you when you were walking past. And he wasn't trying to like nickel and dime you and sell you for anything. And he would give you advice and he would show you all the things that you needed to see. And he was just a good guy to be around, good energy, and started to bring up the life of the place. And it made it a really enjoyable place to be. And both those guys got along very well. They had different clientele bases essentially, but they both worked extremely hard. They did more than what was expected of them. They fucking ran good businesses. And then they both, funnily enough, left that gym to go on and do bigger and better things. And this is the hallmark of individuals that they get it. They start personal training or something like that because they know that they can run their own show essentially, but they're still not. And like the reason why I left the gym was because I wanted to think about nothing but jiu-jitsu all day, every day. And that's all I do now. So I wanted that to happen and it happened. And ways of getting myself better and building frameworks and creating things and breaking things down and then analyzing them and then testing the theory and then retesting it if it doesn't work. And that's the part of it that I love. And now being able to deliver that to hundreds of students all over the world is also my favorite thing because I'm getting them unbelievable results from a fucking app on my phone where I can send them videos and messages and whatever else. And they get to wreck the guy that started with them who started 3 months earlier or something like that. They have a good friend that they started with and now they're beating them up and they can't figure out why. It's fucking great. It's the best. The reason why I left my gym secondly was because I got pulled into the office one day. The manager's name was Nicole. She was a nice lady, but she was just a button pusher. She was just doing the things she needed to do just to satisfy the role and probably had a cushy salary for the result of that. And she said to me, she goes, "Oh, we've had a complaint." I'm like, "Go on." I said, "Nicole, I know you like me, so I know that this isn't too serious because otherwise you'd be like, your face would have changed or something like that." But anyway, she did like me. She appreciated that I actually put some fucking effort into the gym instead of hiding in the staff room all day, rocking up late. I was always reliable. Like everything that I did, I always rocked up on time, 10 minutes early. I always made sure that I was present, that I could be seen, that I was doing the things I was meant to be doing. Sometimes I would fucking slack off and I wouldn't wipe down some benches and I just chat to my mates and whatever else. But I was present. I was in the gym. You could see me. You could ask me for help. And the gross overwhelming majority of people knew my name. I knew theirs, greeted them on a first name basis, and it was just the way that I did things. And I was always like that at whatever job that I liked to do, or that I was in at the time, because I knew that those qualities would stick with me. And I also had good mentors before me who were bosses and managers and whatever else, and that's what they did. So I just copied them. I just accepted their lead and then followed through and then got results that they got, funnily enough. But anyway, she pulls me in and she says, look, we've had a complaint. You've sworn in front of a member. They've complained about it, and just don't do it again. And I said, okay, who was it? I'll go apologize now. And they're like, we can't tell you that. And I'm like, why? They're like, they asked to remain anonymous. And I'm like, well, it's not really a complaint then, is it? And they're like, well, it is, but all right, what did I say? They didn't tell us. Okay, so let me get this straight. You want me to now go down to that gym floor and walk on eggshells around somebody that I don't know exists, to say something that I don't know that I said, so that they can be happy at the gym environment. Like, I'm not trying to be a dickhead to this person, but if they really wanted a solution, they would tell me who it was. They would tell me what I said, so I could go up to them directly and say, hey, sorry, I understand that you don't appreciate the word that I was using. This is the word. I will stop using it in your presence. I'm not going to stop using it, obviously. I say fuck, I say cunt, I say whatever I want. But without that, there's no recourse. There's no resolution. And that really annoyed me. I didn't get mad about it, but it really, really annoyed me. Because I'm like, this is your level of problem solving. Well, then why the fuck am I even here? Because there's a clear blockage for me going anywhere in this system if I'm actively being held back by an inability to solve problems correctly. Like, I looked at that directly and thought, if I was the manager right now, I'd be pulling them in with the person, most likely, and just saying, hey, they don't appreciate when you say this in front of them. Could you please not do it and apologize? No problems, no resistance whatsoever. But without that, there's no resolution. That person feels somewhat vindicated, maybe because they've complained and the management team has listened to them, but there's no resolution on their behalf either. Because if I don't know what I said and who I said it around, I'm probably going to say it again because I have a fucking distinct lack of respect for certain types of authority that's not earned. And the whole like customer's always right is fucking bullshit. What if I said black or the color green and they just didn't like it and I had no idea? And so now when I say that green plate, I know this is an obvious example, but obviously not the example. I probably said shit, maybe. Fucking don't know. I still, to this day, 5 years later, don't know. But anyway, that was one of the big reasons I left the gym. And the third reason is that there was a lot of people that worked there that weren't exactly happy that you were there. And they treated it like a competition. And I get that. I get that it's a little bit of a competition. Like, we've all got clients coming from the same gym and, you know, you want to feed your family and you want to buy your shit and you think that I'm a threat for you being able to do that. I don't fucking know. I don't get it. I always thought that I'm going to do shit my way and there's going to be people that resonate with that. And there's going to be people that don't like the way that you do shit your way. And so I'll get the people that like my way and you get the people that like your way and then we'll just split it up the middle, shall we? Fuck. And if you really want it to be a competition, it should be a competition of who's better, not who's like going to try and cut the other person down. But anyway, there was this one cunt that worked there and he said he didn't want to learn the names of the people that were there for 6 months or less until they'd gotten over like the 6 month period, because in the PT world, there's a big turnover. It's just hard. It's hard to run a PT business. The consistency of it is the difficult part, but it's also the fact that these trainers get belt fed out of this system that enables them to think that it's about counting macros and losing weight. It's not. It's about customer relationship. It's about business. It's about marketing. It's about sales. It's about psychology. It's about none of the things that you think it is. And just like a lamb to the slaughter, you get out onto the gym floor and you're like, hey, can I teach you how to deadlift? Like, fuck off. It's not about any of that. It's about relationships and all of those other things that are less obvious to the beginner trainer. But anyway, because of that, there's a high turnover. And I think 90% of PTs don't make it past the first year. I'm pretty sure that was the statistic of when I was working for Mark and doing the business mentorship thing. And that's what we used to say on the phones. Did you realize that 90% of PT businesses don't make it past the first 12 months? Of the PTs that do make it past 12 months, 90% of those don't make it past 5 years. It's a pretty fucking slim channel of making it. But anyway, this dickhead I used to work with, he was under instruction of his mentor, who was also a massive wanker, but had left before I got there, so I never met him. And he told him that there's no point learning the new guy's name because they're going to be gone in 6 months. And what a fucking horrible, horrible outlook on life. What a horrible outlook on life to automatically presuppose that you know everything about a person. They've got nothing to teach you. They're not even worth learning their name. Scumbag. Absolute scumbag. And the one underneath him, scumbag. Because he just believed it. He just, well, this guy's doing what I want. He's punching out 70 half-hour sessions a week, making fuck all money, running himself into the ground, and is miserable because of it. And then decides that I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy all these ideas too. I'm going to make sure that I'm a dickhead to the guys who were there first 6 months. And so that was the environment I walked into, and I was like, this is fucking stupid. And it wasn't too long after that I started jiu-jitsu. And then it just got even worse because you're like, when you start jiu-jitsu, you're like a little bit of a man thing. You're like, oh, I can fucking armbar that person now. And it just became more obvious about the way that you were being treated because they were like, oh, he's doing this karate thing. And this was just my assessment of it anyway. People start to treat you funny and they're like, oh yeah, you're doing that jiu-jitsu thing. I bet you couldn't choke me out. And it's just this weird like bravado thing that men do. And I don't get it as much anymore. I think probably because I've proven that I'm fucking pretty good. I'm still not good. I'm pretty good. I'm still not where I want to be, obviously, but that's part of the game and the whole idea of development. And I'm definitely realistic with where I'm at currently. I'm definitely going to get better over the next decade and a half, 2 decades. But it's just this weird, interesting thing when you're reacting or acting rather with the general public, and they just have no fucking idea how helpless they are. They're like children. Like, you guys probably listen to this because you do jiu-jitsu. Like, if you're a white belt that's got 2 stripes, you can manhandle literally 99% of the planet that doesn't train. It's because they're just completely helpless. They have no idea. They're just going to get really tired really quickly, and you're just going to laugh at them and then mount them. And then they get even more tired, and their fight or flight system goes crazy. And then you pretty much do whatever you want to them. Wrist lock them, arm bar them, put your nuts on their head. They can't do anything about it. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting sort of arrangement. But the culture there was the problem, both from the management perspective and then also from the employee perspective. And it wanes on you. And you're like, why am I putting effort into getting more clients here if this is going to be the result of the environment that I am in? And it was very quick after that I packed up shop when I shouldn't have. I had no business quitting at that stage, and I was not earning a lot of money. But the pain of stress of trying to make rent was more enjoyable than staying. And I knew that very intimately. And I knew that if I didn't, I would stay there for the next 5 years and just fucking hate my life. And it would also take away from jiu-jitsu, which I love dearly. Still do. I've removed most of the barriers for me training as much as humanly possible all day, every day, which is fucking fantastic. And I recommend if you would want to do it, you just do it. Pull the trigger. Because I'm not special. A lot of people lie to you and they'll say that you're the person that's succeeding and the thing that you want to do is special. They're not. They're really not. I've been around a lot of fucking high-level individuals. They're not special. What they do, such a child. And then go back to Andy Frisella's point. What is expected of you cannot be what you expect of yourself. What is expected of you from the outside looking in cannot be your expectation of yourself. If you want to be fucking good at something, if you want to be great, if you want to be fucking elite, you cannot rest on the expectations of other individuals. You can't, because just statistically speaking, most people never achieve good in their life at all. They are mediocre at best. And that has been very intimately engineered on purpose for you to believe that the bare minimum is actually good. And so you have this moral authority to say that you deserve things because you show up on time to work. Are you fucking retarded? Because showing up on time is the bare minimum. I don't know where anybody gets the expectation from that if you just show up and do your work, you should be rewarded disproportionately. It doesn't make any sense. And people will say to me, I had conversations with a good mate of mine, and he said, oh, it's easier for you because you have a personal brand. And I said, who the fuck do you think built it? I started an Instagram in October of 2018. I did not hit 5,000 followers until November of 2022. I now have 170 something. I think 170 on the dot, possibly. I'll check it later. So from 22 to 25, I grew 160 something. From 2018 to 2022, I grew from 0 to 5,000. No one's willing to go through that. Very, very few people are willing to go through that. The people that have similar followings to me are willing to go through that. Your average Tom, Dick, and Harry quit well before they get to that stage. They post one photo on their first post in November of 2018 and they go, got 2 likes, I'll quit and give up. I didn't get immediate fucking response for my effort. And honestly, I go look back at my Instagram and it fucking sucks. The reason no one liked it is because it was shit. I'm happy to admit that. You look back at my first videos, there's no hook. There's no storytelling. The editing sucks because it didn't exist. I didn't edit anything. There's breaths in there. There's no captions. It's me filming myself on an iPhone with Bluetooth headphones with wind in the background and all this dumb shit going on. The message is cool, but the packaging is fucking awful. But I get to look back on that now because I've improved significantly as a result of going through all of that shit and not stopping, and then proving that I can actually stick with something long enough to get at least decent at it. Still not good, decent. The consistency is the hard part, but that's my expectation. I decided August last year that I was going to start posting 2 times a day, and I have not missed a single fucking day since August last year. I remember this because actually it was slightly before then because I'd left for America. I'd come back and then I decided that I was going to do it, and then I left for America again. I took my tripod with me, took my microphones with me, took my phone with me, and I was just filming videos on my phone back then. I never like a fancy camera or anything like that. And I just decided I was going to post 2 times a day because I thought that that was a useful growth strategy. And then I hit a massive roadblock because I got fucking shadow banned for a video that I spoke about businesses in this room. It did like 800,000 views the first time I posted it. And I was like, I'll post that again. Obviously, people really resonate with it. And it's me saying, if you have a mate running a business, pay fucking full price for their shit and give them a review because you see them putting in effort. If you're a scumbag, you will ask them for a discount. If you're a decent person, you will pay them full price. You will not accept free shit. You will give them a review because they're actually doing something. Doing something with effort should be rewarded at every stage of the way. From your mates specifically. You shouldn't expect it. You shouldn't expect your mates to do this for you. But if you're a good mate, you should be doing it. You should be doing it. You should be helping your friends out. This is something that the Eastern Europeans do very well. The Arabs do it very well. The Wogs do it unbelievably well, just based on my experience with a lot of these guys. Like I have breakfast with a bunch of guys on Saturday morning, and they're all Christian Lebanese. And they're always the first people to help a hand, to lend a helping hand to each other. And like one of them has some baby stuff left over that he's going to give to me graciously. And one of the other ones said, oh, use my truck. Don't fucking go hire one, use mine. And so we're going to go, we still haven't set it up. We still haven't organized it. We're all fucking busy. We're going to go grab his thing and then he's going to drop it over. And I know the guy that's giving it to me will absolutely not accept any money for it. It's really going to fucking annoy me. So I'm going to find a way to sneakily give him some money. I'll just drop it in his letterbox and he'll just open it one day and be like, oh, there's heaps of money in here. But it's that kind of like working together and generosity that I've never really experienced from a family point of view. And they're not even related. They're just good mates. And so that goes to show you how it all works. And like something that's not done very well in Australian culture, at least from my perspective, having lived here my entire adult life and my entire life, actually. It's very like tall poppy syndrome. Like, oh, look at you. You're fucking being a show off. No, not really. I'm just doing something cool that I really enjoy. Instead of you trying to fucking tear it down, maybe don't. Or at least don't fucking fuck with it. If you're not going to support it, give me a review. I don't really care if you do or don't. It would be nice if you did, but that's like kind of the point that I'm getting at. And this again goes back to this victor or victim mentality that a lot of people have. They like to see you doing well, but they fucking hate when you overtake them. They hate it. People hate it. I've had people change in my life in the last 5 years viscerally change very quickly, and it became abundantly clear that that relationship was no longer fortuitous, just because of the way they started acting in pure hatred and jealousy, because you just start doing something cool with your life. And if that pisses you off, I've done a lot of work on this. I've told many stories about how I acted in an insecure manner regarding people who were very capable at what they were doing. You've got to eliminate that from your life. You have to exterminate that, because it will destroy you. It's really bad. If you can't be happy for the people around you doing cool shit because you're upset that you're also not doing cool shit, whose problem's that? It's not fucking theirs. It's yours. Every time. If you see somebody with a good physique, you get jealous and you get fucking insecure about it. That's not their problem. That's yours. That's just the way that it works. It's not someone driving a nice car, you get insecure about it. That's your problem, not theirs. That's a reflection. That's a window into your next level of how you develop as an individual. It just is. And if you don't work on it, you're going to be fucked, because you're always going to go into the victim mentality of, oh, this person, he's doing this shit, but you look for ways to tear them down. Your reticular activating system is being guided by you to find flaws in their systems, and whatever the way, like people always do this with the moral argument against people who are rich. Well, rich guys are assholes. Actually, unequivocally, that is fucking incorrect. Every single person that I know that is rich by today's standards are fucking lovely individuals. I had a guy, don't know how much he makes, don't really care. He's got like 4 nice watches that I've seen him wear over the last 3 years. And his name's Shannon. Just came to the cafe that I go to all the time, noticed that I'm always there, and he goes, hey, my name's Shannon. I've seen you come in here for like 3 years, and I just wanted to introduce myself because you just started coming up on my Instagram all the time. And I'm like, oh, how cool is that? Yeah, awesome. My name's Josh. Nice to meet you. And then he fucking walked away. And he was at the takeaway window, and then I walked out and I saw him again. I said, see you later, Shannon. Have a good day. And then walked away. And this guy has obvious displays of affluence, and he was absolutely not a fucking asshole by any metric at all. The guys that I have breakfast with on the Saturday morning, they're all doing very well for themselves, and they are the loveliest people. Real salt of the earth, hardy individuals. Lovely, lovely human beings. Could not be happier for the things that I'm doing. And they were all like peer pressuring me into having kids. He's like, bro, have kids. It's the fucking best thing ever. You need to have kids now. And then when I finally got to tell him, I was so excited to tell him because I knew how happy they would be for me. And especially when they're doing stuff, I try and do the same thing when they're having cool shit happening. They're like, fuck yeah, man, good on you. Being around that is so impactful, so important to find people like that. But the way that you find these people, I'll tell you the story of how I met these guys, and then you'll understand. I used to drive a Toyota Corolla, and I used to not wear any watches. I wasn't really into them. Secretly, I hated the fact that people could afford watches because it pissed me off. Because of me, not because of anybody else, because of me. And I would park in the same spot. I would come down my ratty old fucking shit Corolla that I bought for like $4,500 or something like that. It's my first car back from getting my license. And I walk past these guys and they say, hi, good morning, whatever. Very lovely, very nice. And then I bought my car that I have now. I started parking in the same spot and paid a little bit more attention. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then I started wearing the other day date that I've got. And then that was like the floodgates, because one of the guys I'm probably the closest to in age, but definitely the closest to in terms of just how we've interacted and that sort of thing. He goes, bro, nice. Very nice. And he showed me his, and we were like talking about it a little bit. He goes, bro, next time you come sit down. Come have breakfast, have coffee, whatever. And so I did. Saw them sitting there a couple of days later. Went and sit down, introduced myself, talked about it, and they were like very interested in what I did. And they're like, what's with the ears and so on and so, what's with the pink shoes, so on and so forth, and just had a laugh. And through hospitality and customer service, I've learnt how to be in a conversation without making it all about the how am I going to explain this? You learn how to integrate yourself very neatly into a conversation. Like when you're at a decent restaurant and you're a server, you can't be completely ridiculous. You kind of have to blend yourself in quite nicely, because otherwise you risk offending people. And there's a lot of social dynamics that are going on that you want their experience to be very good, and you don't want to take away from that. You want to enhance the experience, is what I'm trying to say. And you just, the easiest way that I've found how to do that is humor. Always. Like I got a mate of mine who runs a cafe who's sold a very big restaurant chain in Australia, and in America now it's international, and was the head of one of the departments for another huge restaurant chain. So he's very capable. He's very good at what he does. And he introduced me to a bunch of his friends yesterday that are all in the same business, and they were talking about the precursors and the importance of getting things right regarding a 9-figure deal, which is big time fucking money. And I've got this joke that I do with hospitality people in that sort of department, and I always say to them, they've installed me as the HR manager, and they all laugh because they know exactly what it means straight away. I said, yeah, complaints have gone down this month 800%. And they're like, oh, really? How have you done that? I say, well, I take them over in the corner there and I yell at them, and they get very scared, and then they stop complaining. And obviously this is all jokes and fun and whatever else. I've never done that. And they go, oh yeah, can you do that for my place? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Just feed me and I'll make sure of it. And then they just have a joke and have a laugh. And it's a nice way to cut through, to also have a conversation that they can be bought into without knowing anything about the other people. You just have to know what they do for work. It's just pretty easy because they're hanging around other very successful people in that area. Or even you could just talk to the person as it relates, or as you relate to the person you already know in the conversation. You can say something similar. But that's a nice, neat little trick to, it's not even a trick, it's just a way to be fucking conversatory. I don't know what the fucking word is. To have conversation with them. But then out of that has fostered a really fucking cool relationship. And that's kind of the way I've learnt to get yourself into these circles. But you have to have the hallmarks first of being a capable individual and going over and above. And like these guys were originally interested from my assessment. And I speak to this with another mate of mine who also does really well, about your physical resume being tip-top shape. Like if you walk into a business meeting and the guy's like kind of sloppy and he's got his shirt untucked and he's got fucking Macca's ketchup all over his shirt, you're kind of like, well, this dude doesn't really take care of himself, so he definitely doesn't take care of his customers, and he's probably pretty capable because he's in the room, but he's also not the person I'd want to do business with. Whereas the guy walks in, he's in fucking immaculate shape, his shirt's ironed, he's got the pants with the crease in them and all that shit. It's like details. And he's got a haircut and he looks good. You don't have to fucking be attracted to the guy, obviously. If you want to be, sure, fine. No judgment. But you like visually, that guy does what he needs to do. Gets shit done. You're like, all right, I have firm conviction that guy does what he says he's going to do because he's in immaculate shape. and things are washed and prepared correctly. And it's not even about like wearing a fucking $5,000 suit. You can make $100 suit look amazing if you're in good shape. It's very important to recognize that, especially as a young person who's listening to this. But that's the reason I think that they started to pay a little bit more attention. Obviously, car and watch and fucking whatever else, but it was the fact that it was attached to someone who they never assumed was like that. And then you realize that, oh, that person actually has to be pretty capable because they have the things, the hallmarks of capability. Because you don't just, like, if you see someone driving a Ferrari, yeah, you might think they're a dickhead or something like that, but they've done some fucking pretty impressive shit to be able to afford a $700,000+ car. And there's no getting away from that at all. Maybe they earned it in dodgy ways, sure. But even if they've done it in dodgy ways, they've still risen to the top of their selective field and done it very capably. And so that's the unconscious things. And essentially what I'm getting at is if you want to be around people doing cool shit, do some cool shit. Focus your effort in a way that you are intrinsically motivated and have high expectations of yourself, not just succumbing to the expectations of the outside world. And Andy Frisella was talking about the fact that Michael Jordan was expected to come to training. He wasn't expected to come 2 hours early, which he did every day for decades. Kobe Bryant, same thing. And my favorite Kobe Bryant story. They were having a game. I forget who it was against. One of his opponents. He goes, fuck, we're playing Kobe tonight. Like, I better get there and make sure I'm switched on. He rocks up an hour early to the stadium, goes into the Staples Center of the Lakers. Kobe's there, full sweat, drip. Full sweat already, an hour before the game. An hour before they're expected to be there, I should say. And he goes, all right, he's probably packing up pretty soon. I can get my jam on and, I can like shoot some shots and do this sort of shit. He's just going through the motions. Kobe's going game pace, fucking just sprinting around, huffing and puffing, sweating all over the place. This guy wraps up whatever he was doing. Kobe's still going. So he beat him there, and now he's beating him to leave. Game starts. Kobe drops 50, which is a big fucking score if you're not into basketball. Ends the game. The guy that was there early walks up to him. He goes, bro, what the fuck? He's like in disbelief. He goes, I was about to wrap up as soon as you walked in there, but I could not let you know that you will ever outwork me. I couldn't let you have the satisfaction of knowing that I left because you were there. I had to show you that I'm willing to do more than you. And then I had to put 50 on you just to make sure. And he's just blown away. Blown away. And even in like one of my other favorite Kobe Bryant stories is talking about the fact that if I did X amount of workouts per day, by the time the summer comes around, I'll have X amount of workouts on everybody by the time they have all the time to train. And most people only train when they have the time to do it at the end of the season, but he's doing it every day. And so by the time these summers roll around, they can train 3 times a day like a fucking madman, but he's already 7 months ahead or 9 months ahead. And he goes, compound that over a decade. No one's touching me. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And he goes, you just won't beat me. You can't, because I'm just willing to do more than you consistently again and again. And the expectations are that I show up to training in summer. I'm already there. I've already been training. I've been training. I haven't stopped. You stopped. You stopped. You enjoyed yourself. You went on a holiday. You fucking did all this shit. I didn't. And that's why I beat you every time. Just simple facts at the end of the day. And this was what Andy Frisella's point was. He's like, if you want to be fucking good at what you do, go above expectations. If you want to be great at what you do, smash expectations. If you want to be fucking elite, hold yourself to those smashed expectations consistently over decades. It's just the way that it's done. He cops a lot of shit too. He was posting on about his stories that I've been following recently. And he was saying people like, oh, you're not fulfilled because you don't have kids and all this shit. And he goes, bro, I've got thousands of kids because I've got thousands of employees that require me to do my best work every fucking day without a day off so that they can feed their families. So there's money ready to feed their families. And he goes, I refuse to let them down. That's my responsibility. Yeah, I got the cars, and he's got like a fucking unbelievable car collection. AMG GTR Black Series. He's got a fucking Bugatti Veyron. I'm pretty sure he's got a LaFerrari. He's got Cullinans and all the toys. He's got Ford GT, the OG Ford GT, not the new one. New one sucks. But he's got some fucking beautiful cars, but they are merely symptoms and reflections from the effort that's gone in through them. And like, I used to do this. I've spoken about it at length, and I used to get really pissed off the fact that people had that shit. But then you want to trade lives with them, but then you wouldn't last a day in their shoes because they do more than you do in a day than you do in a month. They do more in a day than you do in a month, is what I was meant to say. And even more so most of the time. And then they realize that it's actually a team effort and people build companies instead of you building it. And then they just hire people that are smarter than them in roles that they need fulfilled. And then those people build the other people, and then so on and so forth. And then they instill a fucking phenomenal culture. Toby Pierce is fucking phenomenal at this too. He's had a couple of 9-figure evaluations. I think 2 exits, 1 exit. I'm not sure. But the way that he instills leadership into his employees, and the way that he holds people accountable to their bests, the way that he treats people, the way that he communicates, is far superior than the 99.9% of individuals that want the things that he has. And so that's why he has them and why everybody else doesn't. And it's fair. It is. Everybody who wants to be a fucking victim says that the world's not fair, but that's because you're putting in victim level work. And it's not this like stay hard fucking David Goggins bullshit. It's just a reality check. It's like, if you want to get fucking better, be better. But just don't get butthurt when it's not an immediate reward, and it's not all these things straight away, and you're not getting applause all the time, and you need someone to hold your hand and keep you accountable and all this shit. Accountability works. It definitely does. You got to be around people that are fucking good people to be around. But you can't expect them to hold you up. You can expect them to cheer you on. You can't expect them to hold you up. And even to a point, like maybe not even expecting them to cheer you on. If you've got good people around you, they will do it. But just don't rely on it, what I'm trying to say. I think it's very important to get that message across. I got one thing from Chris Williamson, from Dostoevsky actually, but it's posted by Chris Williamson. Close your eyes and think of all the times you got it right. Man is fond of counting his troubles, but not his joys. We reminisce on the past and all of the troubles, especially in our present, when we're thinking about all the problems we have and all the shit we've done wrong, and it drags you down unnecessarily. Remember the good shit. Remember the times you won. Remember the times you were victorious, where you overcame obstacles and you didn't know whether you were going to make it out and you fucking did it. Remember that daily. That'll spur you on when you need it. Remember the times where things were like catastrophic and it all came crashing down, but you did it anyway. Remember those sorts of things, because it's fucking important to keep that stuff top of mind. I do it every day. I replay victories in my head every day. And it's not this like self-aggrandizing fucking egoic bullshit. It's no, you get a tingling feeling every day. You remind yourself of some big victory that you've had. Even a small one, who cares? It doesn't have to be big. It can be small. It can be the first time you actually overcame your nerves to have a conversation with a stranger. That's a fucking win in my book. Replay that in your head. What did it feel like? What did it smell like? What were the situations and the circumstances? What color was the room? Put vividness to it. And then run it through your head and let the feeling come up that was present there, because your brain can't tell the difference between an imagined experience and a current reality experience, because it's all fucking imagined anyway. Not all of it. There are obviously physical properties to reality, but your brain's just deleting all the shit you don't want to see anyway, telling you all the things that are important. So you may as well focus on the good stuff. And not just because you want to be a optimist, but because it actually neurologically wires your brain differently. If that stuff's top of mind, watch your problems fall away. Trust me. Your problems become insignificant. They just become another day in the book, and you don't dread on them. You don't dwell on them, and you don't dread them. You don't feel crushed underneath this existential dread that life is. Because the fact of the matter is, we're all going to go through shit. Some people are going to die with all their achievements ticked off, and some people are not. We all run the same game. We're all in the same boat together. We all experience despair and heartache and anger and all of those negative emotions. We all go through it. You just believe that the guy with all the fucking money doesn't, which is retarded. Lack of a better word. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is green when you fucking water it. So stop watering everyone else's. Start watering your own. It'll be the best decision you ever make. Ignore everyone. Trust me. I do it on a daily basis. Cunts in comment sections talking shit. Don't care. Honestly, don't care. If I wanted your life, I'd listen to you, but I don't. So fuck off. Had this dork the other day. I'll finish on this. Use my liking of a reel to justify re-engaging a conversation that we'd left alone 6 months prior. And I don't know this person. They just decided to open up a conversation with me where I just said, look, man, I don't really care. I got a lot of shit to do. This doesn't interest me. It doesn't feel like it's in good faith, and I don't really care about your estimation of who I am or what this conversation means to you, because I'm fucking busy. I've got better shit to do. It's just the cold, honest truth. I cannot pay attention to everybody that sends me a message. I can't do it. I've got things to focus on. It's just the way that it is. And use the liking of a reel, because you can see who likes what reels now, to reignite this conversation from 6 months prior. And just gave me the fucking biggest narrative. And I was like, man, get off the internet, turn your screen off, go touch some grass outside, because clearly you're looking into things too much. Huge paragraph later about all this nonsense dribble. And I was like, fuck it out. I said to him, look, I don't think you understand how unimportant this is to me. Not to say that I'm like shitting on you, but I don't think you understand that people who do important shit have to narrow their focus so they can get important shit done. Like, my customers are 50 times more important than this conversation. My partner is 50 times more important than this conversation. The fact that I'm having a daughter is 500 times more important than this conversation. I've got really exciting competition news coming up that I'm preparing for that is 500 times more important than this conversation. And I don't think he just got the message and he got butthurt about it. And he was like, oh, I guess the saying's true, never meet your heroes, because they'll disappoint you. You never met me. You didn't. We never met. Taking for face value a conversation that you don't realize that some person was halfway through something else responding to this, and it wasn't the key centralized focus of their entire day, and then that somehow made you mad, is the audacity is off the charts. But I just think, going back to what I was talking about slightly before this, is you cannot like please everybody. You're always going to be seen some way that you're not, and you just got to deal with that. That's a price of admission. And the way that I'm expressing this conversation should align your focus pretty neatly to an intrinsic one where you don't really worry about the extrinsic one, because you just don't have to. The long and short of it is, you can't please everybody, so don't fucking try. And the fact that you think that you can please everybody and that you will try to do so, and then as soon as you displease somebody, you'll stop trying what you want to do, you're never going to make it, because that's the expectations of other people. You have to raise your expectations internally as it regards you and your standards. And your standards won't be very high at the start, and they're not meant to be. You're meant to learn through a graded exposure that your standards can get higher and higher and higher. I thought posting once every week or 2 weeks or something, I thought posting it all 2020, something around there, was good. I had no idea about the game of quality or consistency or quantity quality. And now I understand a lot more of that. And I still don't understand it as much as other people. And in 5 years' time, I will think that what I was producing today is absolute utter trash. I think that videos that I did 6 months ago fucking suck. That's the point. And people can go back and look at that and ridicule it and say whatever they want, but internally, it's my standards, not yours. Don't care. And I honestly think if you want to do something cool, that's the way that you've got to think. And so that's why I'm telling you guys, based on my own personal experience. So if you enjoyed this, you're welcome. I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe because I think it's fucking cringe. Well, now I do anyway. Probably in the past I said it somewhere and then someone's going to bring that up and say, oh, you're a liar. Ah, well, people are allowed to change. They're allowed to grow. They're allowed to have different opinions. They're allowed to work on themselves so that they do grow and have different opinions 6 months later than the previous opinions that they had. You can't have this caricature in time of some individual because they're going to develop and they're going to change. They're going to change their opinions on shit. James Smith did that. He thought that the vaccine was exactly what everybody should be doing and you're an idiot if you don't get it. And then a year and a bit later, he realized that I was wrong. I was wrong to assume some things that I assumed. And I've grown and developed as a person as a result of that. And you know what? Take your fucking hat off to someone like that because they're willing to admit it. Most people aren't. Most people have died on the hill that they don't really even want to die on just because they want to appear correct or they want to uphold some fucking bullshit value that they think that they're showing, but they're not. People who understand it vividly just understand they're fucking morons. But yeah, you can't concern yourself too much with the expectations of others. That's what the whole episode's about. Keep that top of mind. Do with it as you will. And see you next week.